In the July 2026 balance patch to Warhammer 40,000, there have been a lot of core rules changes as well as faction rule changes to make the game work, which it really didn't when it was first released. Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, and there have been hundreds of rules changes to the thousands of rules in the game. War games outside of Games Workshop are not like this. Age of Hannibal has 8 pages of core rules. If you want to celebrate 250 years of American independence, there's the Live Free or Die American Revolution war game that is 4 pages long. Even in Games Workshop, the Age of Sigmar rule set used to have 4 pages of rules, and once you understood army construction, you could skip at least one of the pages. I hear that in some cases you can get the core rules of a game down to 1 page of rules. So there are many rules in 40k. I don't like searching the 40k app for rules. And today, I learned that in the user preferences in the bottom profile tab, you can have the show errata tab, and it lets you see changes and relevant information. That is maybe the most important thing to learn from this video, aside from all the Deathwatch stuff. But if you're not a Deathwatch player, you've got something out of this. Thanks to the commenter who explained it. It still doesn't tell you all the changes, but if there has been a change, there's a little box telling you there's a change. At some point, this series of videos about the balance patch changed to be more me learning how to find the Games Workshop rules than explaining the changes to you. But I have opinions as well as someone who plays Adeptus Astartes, Genestealer Cult, Imperial Agents, and Deathwatch. I'm not going to cover every Space Marine rule change because with Deathwatch we are more limited but more elite. And I'm still waiting on rules clarifications on a lot of things. Like the Space Marine Apothecary, you get a command point when the bodyguard is destroyed. If that happens when the last bodyguard model is killed, what happens if you bring a model back with the Apothecary ability and then they're killed again? Is that the chance for another command point? I can't find any rule about it. If you do know a rule, please let me know the rule code in the comments. Biggest change to the Deathwatch, the Black Spear Task Force disposition has changed to match the Imperial Agents version. It is now Purge the Foe, which is considered by Games Workshop to be the most popular one, certainly, I'll agree with that. I wouldn't say Purge the Foe is the strongest disposition. It does have a very basic set of instructions. I think of it as taken hold with an emphasis on the taking more than the holding. You still need to control objectives, you still need to be able to outscore your opponent, you are generally coming to them, and with the Black Spear Task Force having teleporting tactics, and so we can get our specialized kill teams into the unit they're specialized to kill, and then kill them, we can get victory points from that. For the Deathwatch, the Black Spear Task Force is one of only 2 available detachments that get to use Purge the Foe. The other is the terrible First Company Task Force, which I considered one of the worst detachments in the game. The Black Spear Task Force is 3 detachment points compared to the Imperial Agents. Their Ordo Xenos Alien Hunters detachment is 2 detachment points. Don't worry though, the Space Marine version is better because you get to play Space Marines instead of having the option to add in some assassins with the assassin detachment and make them more expensive with their compulsory enhancements. That is why I ranked that as the worst detachment in the game last edition. I wouldn't really say it's improved much, even if the enhancements are cheaper. And if you want the assassins or a lot of other Imperial Agent units, we can have them as allies. That's how the Adeptus Astartes can work with Imperial Agent allies. Except for Deathwatch Agents units like the Proteus Kill Team, we can't mix Deathwatch with Deathwatch. But you can have Kill Team Cassius. Unfortunately, with the fast rolling of saves, you lose the basic troops much faster to attacks that have the same profile because you can't switch back to the Terminator partway through. And because Cassius is a character model, you can't take saves on his invulnerable save. Characters have to be part of the last allocation group. And as they're Imperial Agents, Cassius's team can't use most of the stratagems as they target an Adeptus Astartes unit. The points and abilities on our Adeptus Astartes Deathwatch units remains unchanged. They're not making us pay for Thunderhammers on the veteran team, They haven't increased the cost of the dominant Indomitor kill team. There is a new detachment for us, as we are Space Marines. We're never locked to just the Black Spear Task Force. Anything you see on the field manual for the Deathwatch is an available detachment for us. The Vengeful Hosts is a new detachment, because Games Workshop ran a campaign, and you submitted your results to Games Workshop, which they totally took stock of. But in the end, the campaign was a draw. And the lasting effect is Deathmire is under siege and continues to be fought over by the Orcs and the Imperials. And so they get to release both detachments that they had written rules for. What a shocker! So the Orcs got a detachment and the Space Marines got a detachment. It has the cool Orcs Bane, it kills more than Orcs, and that is thematic for the Deathwatch to have a specialised Orc killing weapon, but it also works against any alien. It'll smush a Dark Eldar just as good as an Orc. It's damage 3 with cleave 2, which means you get 2 extra attacks for every 5 models in the enemy unit. That's a good upgrade for a character with the Sky Talon unit or with Vanguard veterans. No Fear is a really cool stratagem. That alone is a reason to take the Vengeful Host detachment. A unit is no longer battle shocked when you need them to no longer be battle shocked. You don't need to have a chaplain nearby to use their ability to unbattle shock you. But importantly, this is done in the command phase, so unlike the once per game Insane Bravery where you use it before taking a battle shock test in the command phase, you could be battle shocked at the start of the phase. You could fail your battle shock test, then you use this ability, then you score an objective that your unit is on. And it's a stratagem you can use on battle shocked units. It's very, very useful. I'm not too bothered about the detachment rule, reroll hit rolls of 1 for jump troops if they made an ingress move or if they charged. We usually use jump troops to have fast-moving infantry, and we're not too bothered about the rerolls, especially when the jump pack marines are there to drop in and score secondary missions. They're not so much charging. Even if you're doing Purge the Foe, there are still the secondary missions to consider. The Vanguard veterans now have an extra option in the app to use them with their Armageddon box loadout, but all of the models have to follow that. Or you can continue to use their damage 1 melee weapons with the shields and the cool pistols. With the change to weapons, they're 105 points for 5 or 210 points for 10 instead of 100 points for 5 and 200 points for 10. That covers the change. Vanguard veterans as an elite unit are a thematic choice for the Deathwatch. Unfortunately, the Armageddon shoulder pads on the monopose kits are sculpted to the arm, so it's not easy to add a Deathwatch shoulder pad. You would have to keep the whole arm off and add on a power sword with a Deathwatch shoulder pad, and hopefully you have power swords spare from the veteran kill team box, which you can't buy anymore, which is unfortunate. Because of the Armageddon set, the chaplain now has the option for an Absolver bolt pistol in addition to all their previous equipment. Don't expect this to last past the Codex release for the Space Marines, when this chaplain model will be the only one sold. Then I expect their war gear will change to Absolver bolt pistol and Crozius, nothing else. No other options. The captain can have their equipment and join any of the units. They no longer have the limit on having a shield if they want to join Blade Guard. So the Armageddon captain can join your Armageddon Intercessors, or he can join Hellblasters without needing a plasma pistol. The Intercessors have had their fire extra bullets rule changed. Now you get +2 attacks on all of the bolters if all of the bolters fire at the same enemy that you picked. The grenade launchers and the sergeant's plasma pistol can be fired elsewhere. Minor change, but it means that the weapons that have a strength higher than 4 can be pointed at something that isn't a horde of enemies. There may also be a change to the Blade Guard. In the PDF, it's mentioned that their rule is now that they get a choice in combat to either have +1 to hit or -1 to be hit, instead of rerolling hit rolls of 1 or rerolling invulnerable saves of 1. I see the same rules before on the app, and the app is the true source of rules, the one true rules god of 40k that all others must bow to. If some people have a different version of the app, I'm on version 2.3.0, I would love to know. But it looks like the app has missed this, and so which version of the rule do we play? The one that's in the PDF or the one that's in the app? There isn't one way to play anymore, Games Workshop. You're creating multiple different rule sets. Which one is the official version? A lot of the previously mentioned changes I only found when I noticed on the list building part of the app that the image had changed to show a Blood Angel model. If the change comes through on the Blade Guard, it is a better version. We don't have invulnerable saves separate to armor saves anymore, so rerolling only invulnerable saves wouldn't quite work. In the Tacoma FAQ, which was the baseline template for this particular Games Workshop update, there was a rule that said if anything refers to invulnerable saves, it just means saves. So we would be rerolling save rolls of 1. Maybe tomorrow version 2.4.0 will come out. As of version 2.3, you can now play combat patrol games in the War Journal part of the app. The only place that the combat patrol rules exist, because the combat patrol book you could buy has 0 rules to play combat patrol. That is an expensive brochure to show you what's available to buy, but you buy it from Games Workshop with your money rather than them giving it away for free. Games Workshop aside, back to points. The Lieutenant with combi weapon has gone up to 95 points. I think that is now too expensive for the combi Lieutenant. That is more expensive than Vulcan. Are you sure that is correct? I mean Mini Vulcan, not the Primarch Vulcan. An alternative to the combi Lieutenant is a small unit that's in no man's land and can infiltrate is Eliminators for 75 points. They've got decent guns, they don't have a reactive move, and you would also lose the reroll wound rolls of 1 against enemies on one particular objective. But I think they can work about as well. The Lieutenant may be a better choice thematically for the Deathwatch. Oh, and the app has an update to say, when we say objective markers, we mean objective terrain. That's a rule change you probably didn't notice, and in most cases you were playing it anyway. You'll have to decide if you're continuing to take your combi Lieutenant or you switch to something different. We don't have Space Marine Scouts as an option. Otherwise, I'd say, take Space Marine Scouts. Devastator Centurions now get charged per twin las cannon. Ha! Good. The Land Speeder is increased in cost to 105 points instead of 95 points. They're a good speedy unit that have some useful weapons to fight light vehicles, a multi-melter, the missiles, and you can cause some devastating wounds from the rotary cannon, the Gatling cannon, the whatever cannon it is, the not heavy bolter. And their shoot and then move is rather useful. You can get into a good firing position, shoot the enemy, and then move out of line of sight. Pivoting continues to be free. The Stern Guard are a thematic Deathwatch unit, as they are an elite unit. They cost 10 points more for a unit of 10, so 200 points for a unit of 10. That's more expensive than our kill teams like our veterans or our Decimus kill team. That alone is not a reason not to take them. The Librarian on foot in regular armor costs 10 points more, so 70 points, and the third one costs another 10 points. This is Games Workshop's way of trying to stop the Librarius Conclave dominance. There have been several nerfs to the Librarius Conclave. There was a very good tactic of using a Librarian and a Stern Guard squad to click and kill. You had the Fusillade enhancement. That gave you anti-vehicle, anti-monster 5+. And with the Stern Guard having full rerolls to hit and wound, especially rerolls to wound against their Oath of Moment target, and with devastating wounds on their bolters or combi weapons, they were stripping wounds from any big creature like dandelion seeds from a dandelion. The anti-aspect is replaced with lethal hits. Also, the enhancement costs 5 points more. It's still good value for Stern Guard. Rerolling hit rolls with Oath of Moment will get you those lethal and maybe sustained hits if you're in the Pyromancy discipline. That's an 11 in 36 chance of getting a 6 to hit. That's almost a 1/3 chance when you include full rerolls, assuming you reroll all the hit rolls that are not a 6, and you get an extra point of armor penetration if you're shooting within 12 inches. Deathwatch don't get the +1 to wound part of the Oath of Moment, but if we're fighting aliens, then the Deathwatch Veteran kill team, the Decimus kill team, and the characters they're with get full rerolls to hit anyway. So Oath of Moment then becomes a dedicated, where did the Stern Guard want to shoot button. The Temporal Corridor enhancement costs another 10 points, and it lost the ability to leave the board even if in engagement range. Now you have to be unengaged before you can use it. It's a way of doing sort of Black Spear Task Force shenanigans when you're not in the Black Spear Task Force. So will the Librarius Conclave be dominant as a 1 detachment point detachment, or will one of the other 3 1 detachment point detachments be chosen? Probably not. Librarians are very useful characters for their invulnerable save in regular marine armor or sustained hits if you're a Terminator, and the detachment rule is still really good. Pick a bonus. Your units with Librarians or with Inquisitors that have psychic powers will get the bonus. Plus 2 inches to movement values, and then the Bastion Task Force advance and charge for all battle line units. That's really good. Super speedy Deathwatch veterans. There is more speed available with cheaper Rhinos and Razorback for the Deathwatch veterans. Razorback only for the Deathwatch veterans. This change isn't about clearing stock for a Razorback that's hypothetically no longer getting sold. All dedicated transports have had their points decreased because they're not as good in 11th edition for 3 reasons: exploding, exploding, and exploding. If they're destroyed with a unit inside, the unit takes hazardous rolls, and that means you take a wound on a 1 or a 2. In the previous edition, you only took a wound on a 1. Secondly, if their deadly demise triggers, the unit disembarks first, then deadly demise happens, so a second explosion can hit the unit that was inside. And technically a new rule in 11th edition, because it wasn't there at the start of the edition, if you have an empty dedicated transport at the start of the game, it is destroyed. This was a rule in 10th edition, it's now a rule again in 11th edition. Company heroes, by contrast, no longer explode if you start the game without a character with them. So they can operate alone, though you'll probably want a character with them, then you get the -1 to be wounded aspect. So there are 2 really big main changes for the Deathwatch. First of all, we have purged the foe as our disposition on our Black Spear Task Force, and secondly, we have more expensive Librarians and have lost the anti-tank Stern Guard Hammer Strike. The lethal hits version may work pretty well, it'll have to be tried out. That's if you're picking a detachment that goes with the Librarius Conclave. You'll have to let me know, are you more of a Black Spear Task Force Deathwatch player, or a, say, Bastion with Librarius Conclave Deathwatch player? The Deathwatch in Imperial Agents have been getting some help. Please keep up the pressure, don't let up, they need more detachments. I know people think, oh, we'll just make loads of ally detachments, but what about a mini Hereticus Police detachment? A mini Xenos Corvus Blackstar detachment? A mini Malleus Acolyte detachment? A mini Fleet Voidsman detachment? And yeah, give us the option to combine them with their parent to make some really good units. And we want an army rule. If you want to see more about what the Deathwatch and Imperial Agents have gotten from this update, this is the video to watch. My darlings and viewers, have a great day of 40k.